It's the Michael Patrick Leahy Show, broadcasting live from downtown Nashville. And now, here's Michael Patrick Leahy.
And welcome back to the Michael Patrick Leahy Show. We are just going to have so much fun today. We are joined in studio by the newest All-Star panelist, the great E.J. Host. Welcome, E.J.
Good morning.
So I told you I was going to throw you some curveballs here this morning.
Yes, today is a surprise segment. I don't know what's coming.
It's breaking news curveball type stuff. Okay. And so, but what's so fun about this is to get your reaction to these things. And I'm going to, I just love this. I just so love this.
Okay.
It's from, do you know Bill Ackman, the hedge fund guy?
Yeah.
Who's been a Democrat his whole life and now is backing Donald Trump.
Right.
I'm going to just share this. He just put this up, and it's just so great. I gotta share this. He said the following: a friend was asked to write a recommendation for his daughter who was applying to Yale.
Okay.
Here's the letter. What do you think? Here we go. I'm going to read the letter. It's about 3 paragraphs.
Okay.
Dear so-and-so, dear friend, I am unwilling to write a letter of recommendation in support of your daughter's application to Yale. I no longer do that. It's not that I don't believe that she is qualified. On the contrary, it is because I do believe she's qualified. You wouldn't ask me to write a letter of recommendation for her admission to Hamas.
Oh, my goodness.
But Yale is no different than Hamas, a cult that abides no disagreement, and a cult certain of its purpose and mission beyond reflection. Yale is potentially even more dangerous.
Oh, my goodness.
Hamas will be defeated shortly. Yale will continue to send its graduates into positions of power for years. A recent study at Harvard found that roughly 50% of the students and professors wouldn't discuss, quote, uncomfortable topics. An essential life skill is the ability to change your mind. She won't learn that at any Ivy League school. Their reputations are still so strong that their faculty, staff, and graduates all possess the arrogant certainty of religious fanatics.
Oh, my goodness.
I am sorry to disappoint you. I wish her the best in her search for a school. Your friend.
Wow. Wow.
I love that.
Yeah. Brilliant.
Because, if you love your children, don't send them to an Ivy League school.
You've said that before, and it's excellent advice. I just saw a post, and I wonder if this is all circulating now. Yale is something to the tune of $87,000 a year for just tuition, room, board, and fees. And that's before probably you buy books and before you do anything outside of the university. But, assuming you live on campus, that's an outrageous amount of money to spend to be brainwashed.
Yeah, I mean,
you could do it for free by listening to MSNBC all day.
Boom! I love that. That's exactly right. You can get you had a better. I was about to say, it could be done for free, but then you had the best punchline. You could do it for free by watching MSNBC all day. It's interesting you mention MSNBC because I have a very close friend with whom I went to high school, who still lives in upstate New York. Really, really close friend. We were on a championship basketball team.
Okay.
Way back when. And a long time ago. And he was the star of the team. And I was the defensive specialist point guard. And I see him, every couple of years. I go up there, go back to Stockbridge Valley. And he and his wife watch MSNBC all the time.
Oof.
I know. And so there I'm sitting on his porch one day, and we're looking out over the beautiful, gorgeous valley where I grew up, one of the valleys where I grew up. And he starts saying things that are just like insane, right? He starts saying something like, that Justin Jones, what a brave guy he is.
Oh, my goodness.
And I'm thinking, should I or shouldn't I?
Right.
Right?
We've all been there. We've all been there and we're coming up on Thanksgiving. You're probably going to find, one of your friends or neighbors or family members that you didn't realize was so nutty to the left is going to expose themselves that way.
Yeah, exactly. And by the way, for all our listeners, the coffee was slow today. You can probably hear it in the background.
It's percolating.
The percolation of the coffee. I make it particularly for you,
yes.
EJ.
Yes,
but,
I do like my coffee strong, and I'm a bit of a coffee snob.
But that's a little sound effect that you hear in studio. So
Just letting everybody know I'm here today.
I thought I wanted to share that with you. It's very interesting. Now, I have some breaking news.
Okay.
Literally, that was just published an hour ago, less than an hour ago.
So I was in traffic then.
Yeah,
on my way here.
It's from Just the News, our buddy
yeah.
John Solomon, but the greatest news outlet in the country, I think. John, what a great guy he is. Headline: Judge Merchan delays decision on whether to dismiss Trump guilty verdict in quote hush money case. In July, after a landmark Supreme Court ruling outlining presidential immunity, Trump asked Judge Merchan to toss out the guilty verdict. And it was, it was tried before a jury of 12 in New York City, and they convicted him of these bookkeeping charges. I mean, he was found guilty after a 6-week trial on 34 counts of falsifying business records.
Jury of his peers in air quotes.
During they said during the 2016 presidential election. Actually, it was after the presidential election, to hide a quote hush money payment to porn star Stormy Daniels so that she would stay quiet about an alleged sexual encounter. Former president pleaded not guilty to the charges. They were brought by Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg. Now, here's the thing. In July, after a landmark Supreme Court ruling outlining presidential immunity, Trump asked Judge Merchan, who's an acting judge, by the way, in Manhattan, the lowest level, to toss out the guilty verdict. The Supreme Court ruled in a 6-3 opinion earlier that month that the presidents have presidential immunity for some official acts, but not unofficial acts. Now, the argument that Trump's attorneys made, Todd Blanche and Emil Bove, the hush money trial was tainted by evidence that should be protected under presidential immunity. Here's the key, quote, because of the implications for the institution of the presidency, the use of official acts evidence was a structural error under the federal constitution that tainted grand jury proceedings as well as a trial. And part of it is specifically testimony from former White House Communications Director Hope Hicks and former Special Assistant to the President Madeleine Westerhout, as well as other testimony about the inner workings of the executive branch, should not have been admitted under the High Court's ruling. They're right.
They are right.
They're
I
right
agree
about
with you
that.
there. And you would know because you have far more law experience than I do.
I'm a lowly 1L at Nashville School of Law, but it's learning a lot of stuff. So yeah, I think they've got the case now. What he's ruled is he's delayed a decision on this until November. He just kicked the can down the road.
He did say what date?
November 19th.
Okay.
So, okay. He's not going to make a decision until November 19th. And he wants to consider what effects Trump's victory on the presidential election means for the case moving forward. That was requested by Trump's legal team. They want him to dismiss the guilty verdict.
Sure.
I mean, he still could. I mean, he could. At sentencing, which is now still scheduled for November 26th, he's got the authority to put the president in jail. Asterisk, but the president's not going to go to jail.
No, of course not.
But if he were to sentence, talk about a constitutional crisis.
Would Biden pardon him?
He can't.
Oh, he can't.
Governor Hochul won't.
Won't.
She's a left-wing loon.
You're right.
When we come back, we'll have more. There's lots more to talk about. It's a busy day. I'm Michael Patrick Leahy. She's EJ Host.
Hey there, this is Lenny McGill, founder and CEO of The Glock Store. As a proud sponsor of this show, you may have heard Michael Patrick Leahy mention us a few times over the past 4 years. But today, it's me on the radio telling you how pleased we are to be associated with Michael Patrick Leahy and his dedication to the highest levels of professional journalism. Michael Patrick Leahy has been threatened with jail time in bringing the true facts about that Nashville Covenant shooting to his listening audience. Michael Patrick Leahy, you keep doing what you're doing, and we here at the Glock Store will keep sponsoring your show for the good of Nashville and the entire country. And I'm personally inviting all of your listeners to come visit and shoot at the Glock Store. It's where Michael Patrick Leahy learned to shoot a gun for the first time and where he bought his own personal Glock 19. I'm Lenny McGill, founder and CEO of the Glock Store here in Nashville, just minutes from the airports, worth the drive from anywhere, and a proud sponsor of Michael Patrick Leahy and the Tennessee Star Report.
Welcome back to the Michael Patrick Leahy Show. Now, here's Michael Patrick Leahy.
And welcome back to the Michael Patrick Leahy Show. In studio, EJ Haas. EJ, you kind of give me your business.
Yes, sir.
Let's talk about that just for a moment before we get into appointments.
Sure.
Tell us the website for your business.
It's getfoundeverywhere.com.
Okay. If you're listening right now, no matter where you are, go to getfoundeverywhere.com. But because you're a national business, right? You can serve anybody.
Anyone, yes. We primarily in the U.S. and some in Canada.
And your clients are like brick and mortar type retailers?
Exactly right. So every business that needs to be found on Google Maps, Apple Maps, needs to manage their reputation with reviews, wants a one-stop shop for social media management. We have a portal where you log in and you can handle all of that with one login. So rather than having to have multiple accounts across the board, we help with your SEO, your local SEO, getting customers to actually walk in your door.
Okay, for those that are perhaps saying SEO, that's what search engine optimization.
Yeah. So we help your Google profile get to the top, kind of leveling the playing field against the really big companies that have lots of locations.
So our listeners listening on terrestrial radio are in Pennsylvania and Virginia and West Virginia and Georgia and Tennessee. Getfoundeverywhere.com. If you're listening, you can go there. If you've got a pizza shop or
restaurants, salons, car dealerships, literally anybody who relies on foot
so
traffic to come in the door.
So you've got the super secret sauce that can help them.
Yeah, and I have to give credit to my daughter for that because she is the technical genius of it all, and we run the business together.
Well, very good, very good. And the other thing too is, but people listen to this program on the app. And if you're like, we've had callers from California, and you would, even though it's California, you would take clients in California.
We would take clients in California, and
they need your help, right?
Unlike our friends on the left, I do not discriminate based on your political views.
What a great idea! Getfoundeverywhere.com. Okay, let's talk about more great ideas. They're coming. They're coming fast from Donald J. Trump. And look, I was talking about Susie Wiles, the new chief of staff.
She's terrific.
She's great. And she said, look, we got 2 years. And that's right. They've got 2 years. Let's get it done. Tom Homan. Oh, my goodness.
My favorite one so far.
Hey, what do you have to say? What do you have to say, Mr. Mean, Evil Tom Homan, about the problem that if you deport certain people, you might separate families? Well, we can solve that. How are you going to do that? We'll separate. We'll deport entire families.
Right. We'll just deport the families together. He says. I love that.
That's great. So the appointments have come out, and some of them have been official. Some of them have been rumored.
Right.
And we'll talk about the official ones right now that I love. Tom Homan, great. Board Azar. Elise Stefanik, Ambassador to the United Nations. I think that's good.
I think it's good.
I think it's good. I think a little qualification there from you. Right?
Yep. Well, I mean, listen, I probably don't know enough about her. I know enough to like her, but I don't know enough to be a fan.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So that's probably a good appointment, and I'm going to trust Trump's judgment on this one.
Now, also, we've got Waltz WALTZ. Mike
Different
Waltz?
walls than my least favorite walls in America.
Not a WALZ. We've got a T for testosterone in his name. Waltz with testosterone.
I like it.
WALTZ.
I
You
like it.
Just made it up on the
He's
fly. On the fly. He's a former Green Beret.
And this is why you've been in radio for so many years.
National Security Advisor. That's a good pick.
Sure.
I like that one. But also there are some rumors here. It's not been confirmed by the president yet. I haven't seen the Marco Rubio, Secretary of State. We haven't seen that officially from the president.
Right.
And although Just the News is reporting that Kristi Noem is going to be the Secretary of Homeland Security, I've not seen that yet.
I haven't seen that one. Very far and wide, only rumors. And I'm trying to not amplify any of the rumors until it's announced on Truth Social. I think then then it's okay. Let's go ahead and report on it. I know CNN was reporting on the Rubio thing. Listen, what we have to remember about most news organizations is they all like to be first.
Right.
So think about every disaster you've ever watched, on the news. They want to be the first one to say, we have this exclusive, we have this exclusive, we have this information, because then people tend to go to that news source for more information. However, that's backfired so many times. We should probably be pretty careful with that. And right now we have a president who's talking to us directly, right? A president-elect. So why don't we just listen to him, go to the original sources, and when he's made the announcement, then we can run with it.
I'm looking at all this. Rumor. That's one thing, but it's when the president says something. But let's get into speculation.
Okay.
Attorney General Mark Paletta. I've got a clip. Rumor. I think Attorney General will be one of his last appointments.
It's one of the most important.
It's
could
very
well
important.
be the most important appointee.
Well, yeah, and we all remember the Jeff Sessions disaster.
Yes.
By the way, Sessions. There's no T in Sessions.
Right.
Boom, shakalaka. Okay, so let's go with Mark Paletta is kind of a protege of Clarence Thomas, and has been very aggressive about it. Here, he's talking about what the new Department of Justice will look like. Mark Paletta.
So what you need, and what the president deserves, right, is a fully committed Department of Justice and their career employees. And you're reading these articles about how some employees are going to try and resist President Trump. And they would be subverting democracy, in my view, right? The American people voted on this. The president won on a very clear agenda. And that's the other thing. All of these things were laid out during the campaign like nothing else for the past 4 years and in the past year of the campaign. And that's what he has a right to see implemented. DOJ across it's getting DEI out of the federal government, suing companies or universities that do DEI, investigating all the anti-Semitism that's going, and prosecuting people for those horrific acts against people. Looking at drug companies, right, and all the transgender surgeries, and keeping it from parents, going after parents, looking at the January 6th defendants, right, and issuing pardons and commutations for everyone who was, persecuted, prosecuted by politically inspired lawfare, right? That's not just on the January 6th defendants, it's other people, abortion protesters, right, who get thrown in jail for many years simply for just protesting. So that's the agenda. Those are the kinds of things that are going to happen at the Department of Justice. So that's why it is.
I like that agenda. But you need somebody that can, first, at the Department of Justice, probably most attorneys are leftists who hate Donald Trump.
Sure.
You got to get rid of them.
Yep.
And you have to have some power.
Well, and you have to be able to replace them too.
Right. Yeah, good point. Now, Paletta has a very good reputation. However, I've got to tell you this, just, immediate reaction. He doesn't give me the Tom Homan vibe.
Sure. But he might have to be a little more diplomatic.
A little bit more diplomatic.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
right. That's right. Because he's working with the attorneys, and
Listen, if he's willing to fire people,
yeah,
I think that's probably the most important thing. Like, because there are so many that have to go, we have to remember too that when you have a job in the federal government, it shouldn't matter who's sitting at the desk, right, in the White House. What matters is that you execute your job duties as they are outlined. And so sometimes that means following the agenda of the Oval Office, and other times it means following, whoever your boss is or whatever. But if you've got people who are actively opposed to the administration, they have no place in that federal government role. They just don't.
Yeah, and the AG, look, Paulette is a leading contender. I personally would go for my buddy Jeff Clark.
Okay.
Who has really put it all on the line and has been under attack. I think he'd be very good. Matt Whitaker's been mentioned.
Yep, I've heard that name.
Former acting attorney general. Also, Ken Paxton, the attorney general of Texas. Anyone would be fine, but I think it underscores, and we'll jump into this when we get back. It underscores the importance of the Senate playing ball.
Agreed.
It also understands if the president wants to get moving quickly, he's going to need to have the Senate, not be in session for a while, so he can do recess appointments.
Yes.
The afternoon of January 20th.
That's right.
And that's what I think needs to happen. And when we get back, we'll talk about that.
Okay.
There's a big confab tonight in Washington among the senators. I'm Michael Patrick Leahy. She's E.J. Host.
My fellow Americans, I was this close, very close, to buying from the lumber yards. These are sick people. But I turned my head at the last second, and I saw a big, beautiful ad for D.T. McCall's. These are highly respected people. If I had not turned my head at the last second, I would have been ripped off at some lumber yard for $200 in hidden charges, and D.T. McCall & Sons are never going to do that. They'd never do that to you. These are great people. I've known them for a long time. They have great deals, and I just have to say, nobody knows deals like I do. D.T. McCall & Sons has locations in Lebanon, Carthage, Lafayette, Cookeville, and Franklin, and they have been family-owned in Middle Tennessee for over 100 years. These are tremendous people. D.T. McCall & Sons. Check out one of their stores today. Impersonator not endorsed by Donald Trump.
Welcome back to the Michael Patrick Leahy Show. Now, here's Michael Patrick Leahy.
Newest All-Star panelist E.J. Host in studio. E.J.,
Good morning.
we're going to get right to the Senate Majority Leader race, but we've got some breaking news. I just heard from Brianna Morello, who has been in contact with Steve Baker's attorneys.
Okay.
And it all went well in court. He is free. The judge did not find him in contempt of court.
That's a relief.
Yeah, he pled guilty in an Alford plea, apparently, which means there's enough evidence to convict you.
Right.
But and so you're not going to contest it. And you plead guilty. It's called an Alford plea, and that preserves the right. Apparently, preserves the right to appeal. Now, so he's free right now as we speak. This is good news. His sentencing is not going to be held until March the 6th.
Oh, wow.
Which is good because something happens on January 20th.
Right.
Donald Trump is president of the United States. And Trump could, that gives him, I like that because that's a month and a half for all the pardon process to go through.
Right.
So
and to really evaluate who deserves to be pardoned and who potentially may not.
I mean, my take on this is that there are like 1,400 people charged. I think they convict them all because they're not getting fair trials, and probably all but a couple dozen of them deserve pardons.
I agree.
And we'll see how that plays out. Now,
if it's even a couple dozen, I mean, when you watch the videos, it's difficult to determine who is part of the agitation group that, in my opinion, were there, collecting a paycheck from the federal government, and the people who really did do damage. And if you did damage and if you hurt someone, then by all means, we're not here to say that you shouldn't pay a price for that. But 1,400 people, that's outrageous.
It's ridiculous, yeah. By the way, apparently our sources who were in the courtroom are telling us that the judge was more than a little bit irritated. Okay. Which is okay, good. So, he didn't have any option apparently on this, so which is all very good. So I think it's a good, so far the gamble that Steve Baker's made is paying off. Good. We'll find out. I mean, look, he could in theory, be sentenced to up to a year in prison. I think if he's sentenced on March 6th, that would mean he would also. The other part about this, in terms of the timeline, the sentencing hearing is like March 6th, but there's like a month to report. Okay. So that really gives, President Trump 2.5 months, to review this and look. And Julie Kelly, right? Julie Kelly's been all over this, and she says, look, the number one priority is president needs to pardon, almost all everybody. And our friend Stuart Parks, who we know, who was it got a bench trial, unfair trial, and he just was in the Capitol for like 20 minutes and just walked through the Capitol and on video, you can see it on video, just kind of walked through. And he just, when they asked him to leave, he left. Yep. And the crooked judge, sentenced him to 8 months in prison. He served 5 months and like 13 days in prison It's ridiculous.
Yeah, for walking through the Capitol.
It was unfair.
A whole bunch of them too. I mean, it's got to be dozens and dozens. Literally stayed within the stanchions.
Yeah.
And just walked along like the carpet, taking pictures of the building. Not exactly the rioters that we've been told they were.
It's interesting that on this, the Department of Justice, they're kind of running through the tape. They're arresting more J6 people.
Yeah, which is
It's
outrageous.
Like, why are you doing that?
Yeah.
Just to intimidate your enemies.
Of course.
Really? That's not good. Oh, this one is just delicious. Tomorrow at 11 o'clock, Donald J. Trump is going to go visit the White House for the first time since he left.
Right.
Almost 4 years ago. And he's going to meet with Joe Biden.
Mm-hmm.
And, Joe, wouldn't you like to be a fly on the wall on that one?
Oh, for sure. I mean, I'm hoping Joe stays awake is really the only.
He's been a little
He's
livelier
got a pep in
since
his step. Yeah.
He's got a skip in his step since Kamala lost.
Yep.
And all the behind the scenes thing of what really happened there.
Yeah.
Pelosi's mad at him. He's mad at Pelosi.
Boy, don't you wish we could have asked her questions when she was here locally in Nashville? That would have been great.
Yeah, like she'd answer them.
Right. Just to see her face not move when we do ask them. It'd be great.
But there's another little side thing here. When there's a president, you know where I'm going with this.
Yes, I do.
I can't wait to hear what you think about this. So when the president-elect is invited by the outgoing president, typically on that day, the soon-to-be first lady has tea with the outgoing first lady. Mm-hmm. Melania has a message for Jill. I ain't coming.
Yeah. I love it. I think she owes that family nothing. They have treated her so poorly.
Oh.
I think it's a power move also that basically says, you're not pushing me around anymore.
Yeah.
And I think it's a notice too to even just White House staff. A lot of those folks work, secretaries and staffers, and they work through administrations, right? Some people have been there 30, 40 years.
Yeah.
And so this is a message to all of them too, that I'm not getting pushed around.
Yeah.
And you don't own me, and I owe you nothing.
She was very, very angry at the way that the FBI
Handled
raided
her
their house.
things, yes.
And she blames Joe Biden for it. This was at the direction of Joe Biden.
Yep.
And look, did Joe Biden do anything political without the involvement of Jill Biden, the modern Edith Wilson?
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, really, we've talked about it before. She's kind of running the show.
Kind of.
Right? I mean, she was running cabinet meetings. So, yeah, I don't think Melania should feel one bit differently than what she's doing right now, which is a great big, well, I can't say it on the air.
A great big blank you.
Yeah.
Joe
Yep.
Biden. Okay, so let's get to our main topic for this segment, which is the vote for the Senate Majority Leader. Mm-hmm. This matters, and it matters because whoever the Senate Majority Leader needs to take the action in the Senate that will help the president to implement his plan. Mm-hmm. And one element of that is to basically go out of session when the president wants to put an acting cabinet member in.
Right.
And there are three candidates. Rick Scott, the senator from Florida, John Thune, the senator from South Dakota, John Cornyn, the senator from Texas. Now, both Thune and Cornyn would be considered establishment McConnell yes men.
I agree with that.
And Scott has identified with the MAGA movement. And, so there is the vote is going to be held tomorrow. Mm-hmm. That's a little Mitch McConnell saying blank you to Trump.
Yep.
Because why?
In secret, no less.
Supposedly in secret. Mm-hmm. Why are you hurrying up this vote? Because the new session. I mean, don't you have to have the new senators in to vote on it? I would think so.
You would think.
Yeah, yeah. They're supposed to be up there for an orientation.
Right.
And so I think you would have just the new senator, not the outgoing senators, those who will be in office
Right.
on when the new Congress convenes on January 5th, January 3rd.
So until now,
January 3rd.
it's always been my understanding that that's kind of the whole point, right? Is you vote for the leadership you want.
Yeah.
Not outgoing senators voting for the leadership they want the next session to have.
I don't know.
So it's a little strange.
I don't know if the outgoing senators are eligible to vote.
Well, they definitely have influence because
Are
they're
there-
making their
Are there
points
any?
heard.
Are there any outgoing Republican senators that I can think of? I don't know if there are any outgoing Republican.
That's a good
senators right
question.
now. I
Did
don't
we
think so.
lose any retirees?
No, I don't think we've lost. We've got the new ones are. It was 51-49 before.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, there's just the new ones. There's no. The Manchin in West Virginia is gone, replaced by Justice, a Republican.
Right.
New incoming. And in Montana, you've got Sheehy.
Okay.
And
Sheehy, you're right.
That gets you to 51. In Ohio, you have Moreno. That gets you
Yep.
to 52. And then in Pennsylvania, you got McCormick. That gets you to 53. So there's no incumbent Republican is
Right.
outgoing.
Right.
But I don't. So I think those 53 will be able to vote. But the question is, and we have this infamous Benny Johnson supposed
List.
whip list that a lot of people are saying, we don't know what those lists are. One, and here in Tennessee, of course, Bill Hagerty said he's going to vote for Rick Scott, who's going to be totally on the MAGA train. Mm-hmm. We don't know about Thune and Cornyn. Their past record would indicate they're not really,
Right.
they're more McConnell than Trump.
I agree.
And Cornyn has said, which shows you how ancient his thinking is on this, that, well, he doesn't think it's right to go out of session so an acting cabinet member can be appointed. That is so 1990,
Right.
right?
Right.
He says, come on, man.
Yeah.
You got to move. You got 2 years. you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. And we almost don't have 2 years when you really think about it because House will
18
be
months,
up again.
18
Yeah.
months.
And they'll be campaigning and doing nothing but, calling constituents and fundraising and all of that kind of stuff. So, as far as like how much time we have to get things done, I think it is really condensed.
And I think the Senate map is not going to be as friendly to Republicans in 2026 as well. So, yeah.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
I mean, I think it's like 12 months to 18 months
Yeah.
to really get everything done, and which means, okay, you want to have a cooperative Senate. Rick Scott has already said, yeah, I'll go out of session so you can do acting appointments. Cornyn and Thune have made statements that could be construed either way.
Yeah,
And
I
it
mean, I
was-
think they're trying to walk the fence line a little bit and kind of teeter on both sides. We're walking a fine line here too for another reason. Trump is the president-elect, but he's not a king. So we do have to respect the process a little bit.
And the Senate is like this. We're the club. We're
Right.
constitutionally separate from you.
Right.
So, yeah,
I
it is a fine
kind of
line.
get it. I don't like it, but I kind of get it.
We'll have more when we get back. This is the Michael Patrick Leahy Show. She's EJ Host.
Welcome back to the Michael Patrick Leahy Show. Now, here's Michael Patrick Leahy.
And welcome back. In studio, our newest all-star panelist, E.J. Haas. You know, E.J., back in my misbegotten youth when I was a Democrat, I worked for 2 years as a budget analyst at the EPA in Washington, D.C.
Did you now?
I did under the Jimmy
I learned
Carter
something new
administration.
about you
I know.
every show.
It was just fascinating, of course. And one of the things that it began my migration towards the Republican Party when I saw how everything operated. But I will tell you this, I remember thinking there were some people working on the budget and imbued the budget analysis with their own political views. This was way back in 1979.
Sure.
Okay, and I thought, well, that's weird. Why is that happening? And then they brought in a bunch of political appointees from California. Oh my goodness!
To the EPA, I'm sure that was terrific.
They were just Looney Tunes. My point on all this is there is a deep state, and it hates Donald Trump, and it hates Donald Trump supporters. And as an example of this, I want to talk about this FEMA thing. Let's start
Important
off with
story.
Let's start with clip 3, and then we'll get to clip 6 on this.
Last week's election exposed how liberal media lied to your face to prop up Kamala, and now the left's been exposed again. Last month, after FEMA botched its Hurricane Helene response, Democrats got on their soapbox and blasted everybody who criticized the agency. Remember? Turns out the only ones politicizing the hurricane was FEMA. And that misinformation the left warned you about was true. According to a bombshell report by the Daily Wire, a FEMA manager told relief workers in Florida to not help homes with Trump signs.
Yeah,
internal messages.
And then we'll kind of continue on that. First, kudos to our friends here in Nashville at the Daily Wire.
Yes.
That's a big story.
Big story. And really took some digging because it could not have been easy to get to the bottom of that story.
So the one person they identified was in Florida. It's a woman, and
Marnie.
she was apparently Marnie Washington or something. She apparently fired, but she's pushing back. She says, I was only doing what the bosses in Washington told me. She was a supervisor, and she told her people, don't go to Trump sign.
If they have a flag or
Yeah.
something like that, move on.
Here we have clip 6 where she's thrown her bosses under the bus.
I was notified after I demoted. The next morning, they told me verbally I was fired, but they never provided me anything in writing stating that I was fired. They all alleged that these actions were made on my own recognizances and that it was for my own political advances. However, if you look at the record, there is what we call a community trend. And unfortunately, it just so happened that the political hostility that was encountered by my team, and I was on 2 different teams during this deployment, they just so happened to have the Trump campaign signage. FEMA always preaches avoidance first and then de-escalation. So this is not isolated. This is a colossal event of avoidance, not just in the state of Florida, but you will find avoidance in the Carolinas. Senior leadership will lie to you and tell you that they do not know. But if you ask the DSA crew leads and specialists what they are experiencing in the field, they will tell you. Demand for FEMA to give you those incident reports. They will
There we go. Okay, so
She's going to burn it all down. If she's going down, she's taking everybody with her.
well, see, I think this is again. She's saying this is happening. It wasn't just me.
Right.
It was happening all over.
You mean systemic discrimination?
Systemic. And you have to say, okay, so like these teams, I don't think these are full-time employees in the classic sense.
Like she said, they're deployed, right? So,
So she was hired, and she had a team of 15, 20 people, and she would instruct them. And I mean, again, how much help were they doing? I don't know. But they were clearly, she got instruction on high, as she claims many in North Carolina and Florida got.
well, if they did, so did Tennessee.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there's what she said was de-escalation first or avoidance first and then de-escalation. So I think probably what's fueling that, if I try to look at it through the lens of a radical lefty, right, is this misinformation was shared that if they had a Trump sign or if they were MAGA, then they were probably adverse to FEMA
Antagonistic.
help. Right.
And that's bogus.
Nonsense. It's a hurricane. I mean, these people lost
help me out.
everything.
Yeah.
And I think most, even MAGA people would say, there are some things that we want to pay taxes for, and FEMA or help in some form is probably one of them.
But the thing is that I think that, what they didn't say is, well, what help were you providing to these people?
Right.
My guess is they were kind of just like surveying and saying, what do you need?
Right.
Which is not what you call help.
Right.
It's called, irritation. Right.
True enough. Imagine you're there and you've lost everything. You've got 2 feet of mud in your living room, and you have somebody knock on the door and say, okay, well, we're going to take an assessment of the damage.
And you're going to say...
And you're going to be like, do you
"Get
have
out of
any
my house."
water? Like,
Yeah.
could
Where's
I have
the
some
water?
fresh water, please? could I maybe have a charge on my phone and connect to Starlink? Like, the things that they're considering help, to your point, are just nonsense.
Yeah, and I think that's part of the problem. But again, now, I'd love to interview her.
Yeah, oh, for
Martin
sure.
Washington. And I thought maybe the Daily Wire is talking to her. What a great job they did.
Yeah, and courageous. Like, let's give her credit for having some courage here to go ahead and speak out. And obviously she's fired at this point. So what does she have to lose?
So she was a temporary. She was clearly a temporary employee.
Right.
Right. And that's why she was able to be fired. If she was a civil service person, she wouldn't be fired.
Oh, for sure.
So what they did is they got a whole bunch of temporary people in. I mean, yeah, you go in. You'd like to know, like, how long was she working there?
Mm-hmm.
Probably 3 months.
Yeah,
right?
maybe. Mm-hmm.
Something like that. Maybe if that. And then she'd hire a crew, and they'd be there temporarily. And again,
They'd probably assign her a crew. It's a
what's the crew
huge
doing?
bureaucracy.
The crew was probably just doing assessment.
Right.
P.S. Where's the water?
Right.
Okay. Yeah, can you stick around for the next hour?
I'd love to.
Okay. You are invited.
Thanks.
We'll be back with more after this. I'm Michael Patrick Leahy. She's E.J. Host.